Hello everybody and welcome to this edition of 5 Minutes or Less of EMS. I'm your host Kevin Mackey, coming to you today from Sacramento Metropolitan Fire District Station 50. The topic of this episode is sepsis. We're going to do this in a two-part series. Part one will be the why. Why is sepsis important to pre-hospital providers? Why is it important to our patients? Part two will be the how. How to use the policy, what are the key parts of the policy? And we're going to invite a special guest as well. So come along, let's talk about sepsis. So let's talk about the why. Why is sepsis so important to pre-hospital providers and to our patients? Well, we all know that EMS is really good at time-sensitive illnesses. Think of them: trauma, STEMI, stroke, anaphylaxis, severe respiratory distress. When EMS gets involved in the mix of those, patient outcomes are better. Sepsis, I would also argue, is also a time-sensitive illness. It has a really high mortality rate. Did you know that this year 750,000 patients will suffer from severe sepsis in the United States alone, and 30% of those people will die? When pre-hospital providers recognize sepsis early, early notification goes to hospitals, earlier antibiotics, earlier intervention, earlier therapy results in earlier care to those individuals who are critically ill. So that's the why. But I think better to tell a story would be someone that we know. So I'm going to introduce you to our special guest, and she's going to tell her story now. Our special guest today is Shani Cornell. She's a captain with Sacramento Metro Fire District, EMS 24. Shani, welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Tell me a little bit about kind of what happened and kind of walk us through what you encountered.
Well, this was when my daughter was 18 years old, so it was roughly 6 years ago. She had flu-like symptoms, and I thought, okay, you know, seeing all kinds of illnesses out on the street, I thought, okay, you just have the flu. So she went through the weekend, and then I distinctly remember it was a Monday. She started feeling better, and I thought, okay, this is great. And I went to work the next day, and she called me, and she said, hey, Mom, I just feel really, really cruddy right now. So I just took her to a private physician. And he said, well, yeah, you know, your heart rate's 150, but that can be common with flu-like symptoms. And went to work again the next day. But we'd been out training on the river all day long, and I came back to the rescue, is what I was on at the time, with 10 missed messages, calls from her, and I went, oh my gosh, what's going on? Went to the emergency room in Roseville. We got up to the triage desk and checked her vital signs, and I see him open his eyes like this, and I went, okay, what's going on? And he took it again, and I said, what are her vitals? Well, her heart rate's 150 and her blood pressure's 80/50, and I went, what? And at that moment, next thing I know, he gets on the mic and he's calling a sepsis alert in the ER. And I went, hold on a second. My daughter's 18. 18-year-olds don't get sepsis. They could not get her blood pressure up. She did indeed have fluid in her lungs, so she did have pneumonia. And then the doctor came up to me and he said, I really think we need to do a central line on her. And I thought, again, my daughter's 18 years old and you want to do a central line. And I asked him, I said, what would you do if this is your daughter? And he said, I absolutely would do it.
So I want to thank Captain Cornell for joining us. That's a hard story to tell, especially when it involves one of your family members. So this is the end of part one. Part two will be next. So come along and join us to understand the how of sepsis, how to employ the policy, what the key parts of the policy are. We'll also hear the second part of Captain Cornell's story. Thanks for joining us.